Hi everyone, Tom was here, back at it with another mock draft, but a slightly different than the mock draft we had done before, which is just exclusively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This one we are doing the entire first round, every team, but I'm doing it based on what I want to see happen. Not what I think is going to happen, but what I want to see happen. Because I personally love chaos in my drafts. I like when the first team does something crazy and the rest of the board has to scramble to keep up with it. But what if a few teams did something unexpected, just wild, crazy things that, a lot of the pundits, a lot of the experts had, in some cases Desmond Ridder and Malik Willis going in the first round, beyond Pickett. I saw a bunch of wild things, and they were completely wrong. Most of the experts were wrong this past year. They had Malik Willis rated as, some people were saying, he has all the potential in the world, he's going to be, and now he's on the outs in Tennessee. They may cut him. That's how bad he is. So it is funny because, I'm glad we didn't take him, but we took Kenny Pickett instead. But it's bad that, all these experts were so high on, he has, his ceiling. That's what you hear about all the time. He has a great ceiling. The problem is they don't talk about the floor a lot. So, the hype machine, of course, is there for the draft this year, as it is every year, and I love the pageantry of it. But, in this draft, we are going to do something, we're going to do a few things that, I'm not saying every team's going to do something just wild, but there are a few teams that are. So, we're going to get into it on Tom Was Here.
Hey, how do you like this? I'm Dan Israel, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Okay, the 2023 NFL mock draft is officially started. The Carolina Panthers are on the clock. And I'm sorry, Panthers fans. I'm going to do this to you because this is going to happen to someone, unfortunately. I heard a rumor. Now, this rumor was flying out heavily. That Frank Wright is very high on every quarterback. You've heard the report that he's high on this guy and this guy and this guy. And, nobody that he's low on. But there's a lot of debate and a lot of throw around to see what the Panthers are going to do at number one. But what I'm going to do, unfortunately for you, is do something silly and have the rest of the league scramble as a result. Anthony Richardson to the Carolina Panthers at 1. And my oh my, the chaos right out of the gate. First of all, Richardson only started 12 games. I think 12 or 13 games. Now, it's Florida. It's a bigger program. It's not like Malik Willis, who, was playing at Liberty. So he played top competition. But he was pedestrian as a result. The problem is, Richardson also only played like 12 to 13 games in high school, too. So you're getting a small sample size, and you're buying into the upside. Now, let me ask you a question. Name the last quarterback, because I'll be honest, I can't remember it. And there may be somebody recently, and it's just blanking in my memory. Name the last quarterback who was drafted really high based on potential and not really his game that became anything. Because I can't think of one. But somebody in this top 5 is probably going to gun for Richardson based on he can do a great broad jump. Well, that's great. Can he actually throw a pass? Because that's the important part. So, unfortunately, Carolina, this is your mistake here. I do think it's going to be probably Indianapolis' mistake is what I'm guessing. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see. Now, chaos. Because I feel like the phone starts ringing in Houston immediately for teams who want to trade up for either Bryce or Stroud. And rightfully so. And if you're Houston, you're shocked by this development because you have your choice of both. But guess what? Houston, I think, is in a position where they and they could easily trade out of this spot if they're going to do what I think they're going to what I'm having them do here. They could trade out of this spot. But because they're not, they are going to take Will Anderson. And I'll explain why. Houston does need a quarterback. There's no doubt about it. they don't have anyone that I can think of that they'd be like wasting a year of their potential, wasting a year of their stardom. They have so many holes to fill. The reason why they'll take Anderson here is because they're going to deliberately tank for the top quarterbacks next year, who apparently are way better. So, now Arizona, the calls are flooding in now. Young, Stroud still on the board. Concerns about Young's size. You'll hear that being bandied about. Concern about Stroud being in the long list of Ohio State quarterbacks that never, big potential, but hardly ever did anything. So Arizona, what do they do here? They don't need to take a quarterback, do they? I won't go that crazy for them. They still have a giant contract with Murray, and even though the new regime may not be particularly thrilled with Murray, and there's things that are floating out about Arizona that, he needs to grow up a bit, etc., etc. Arizona goes Tyree Wilson. Bam. Arizona, Tyree Wilson. I thought about them taking Carter, but I'm going to have Carter fall a bit for fun. Because, come on. So, Indianapolis on the clock. What do? Well, they have their choice of the top 2 quarterbacks, and they are thrilled. Nobody's traded up in front of them. They couldn't make the deal work. So, never going to happen probably in real life. But, anywho, concerns about Bryce Young's size, concerns about Stroud as far as the long term, whether he can sustain being in the NFL. And Indianapolis is going to pull the trigger on one of them. They're not going to let them get past that. So, they are going to take... They're going to take Bryce Young. I think they're going to take Bryce Young. They know the size. They're not overly concerned. They do feel the upside is higher than Stroud. And then, well, here's Seattle. Seattle needs a quarterback. Seattle never thought they could get any of these top quarterbacks here at the 5th pick. And one's just sitting there, Stroud. And they got Geno to groom him, waiting in the wings. He doesn't have to start right away. And they're going to take Stroud here. So already, the dynamic has changed a little bit. With Detroit can go a lot of different ways. I've seen people put them as a team for a QB, and I can see that. No, but not Levis at this point. So we are going to have them take Christian Gonzalez. And, they could go a lot of different ways, to be honest with you. Gonzalez just is one of those guys that, obviously, now there's the point of the Raiders, whether they... You just wonder with Christian Gonzalez, all right, obviously he's a top corner, maybe the top corner in this draft. And, like I say, he can go a lot of different places here. But we're going to take Detroit here because they feel the value's there and they don't see anybody on the board that's worth the next jump. So then, Raiders. There's a big choice here in Raiderland. Do you take Will Levis? Which is maybe Derek Carr with a better physique? I mean, I don't know. No, I mean, maybe he's better. Maybe he's worse. You don't know. He's kind of a weirdo. The mayonnaise and coffee thing and the eating the bananas with the peel makes me never want to draft him ever at all, but that's not about how you play football. So, the question is, did they take Levis here or did they take Carter? And I am going to have them take... I'm going to have them take Levis. And the Jalen Carter slide is starting to slide here. So then you wonder, okay, teams, did he upset a lot of teams with only visiting top 10 teams? Where do you, what's the reasoning? Is it the character issues? Who knows? 8, Atlanta Falcons. What do they do? So many holes to fill. How many we go rogue? Falcons take Bijan. They needed a running back for a while. They don't have anybody that's like far and away that talented. And, that may be high for Bijan, but, we're going to take him just the same. They need, between him and, if you get Kyle Pitts ever going to his full potential, maybe you give Ritter some options there. And keep the, if you're going to give Ritter the keys, for one season, why don't you give him the weapons to assist with that? He really doesn't have, other than, what's his face they drafted last year, it was Drake London. That's really his only receiver, so have at it. Chicago Bears, number 9. Well, they're gonna want to protect protect Fields, and they are gonna take Paris Johnson. They pass on Skoronski. With him, he's position versatile. He's played tackle, guard, but they said he would fit more as a guard, and I think that Chicago wanted a tackle. So ultimately, they're taking Paris Johnson here. And where to go at 10 for Philadelphia? Philadelphia, a lot of names on the board, a lot of places they could go. Ultimately, they are going to go Miles Murphy, the edge rusher from Clemson. Because Philadelphia is Philadelphia. They're going to do their own thing. Now, I could have them taking Jalen Carter, but, that's similar to... and I don't think Philly would shy away from Jalen Carter, to be honest. But how many defensive tackles do you need? I mean, they have Fletcher Cox. They have Jordan Davis. Would you go back-to-back defensive tackles? First rounder? Probably if a guy like Carter's there. Well, now... So with Tennessee, who can go a lot of different places, I'm going to have them take Quentin Johnson. That seems like a Tennessee type pick. With other players other receivers on the board, maybe receivers that are touted a little bit higher, they'll take Quentin Johnson thinking he has more upside. Which throws Houston for a loop, because Houston took Will Anderson. All their quarterbacks are gone, so they can't take like Levis or anything. I suppose they could reach for a Hendon Hooker or somebody like that. Should that be something they want to do, but I honestly think that they can get that in a later round. So with 12, what do? Well, you can go a lot of different ways. And what will they decide on? They're going to take Jackson Smith-Njigba, wide receiver from Ohio State. And, you can say, wow, they took a receiver, but they didn't take a quarterback. The idea is that Njigba, the hope being is that he can shine with the quarterback that's there currently while he waits a year waiting for the quarterback next year to go. I heard the Texans had said they were not an official lock to draft a QB. That they may go in another direction for that very reason. That the fact that they're not overly enchanted with the QBs in this draft. And there are major question marks with the QBs in this draft. Not necessarily like last year, but not the lead pipe locks that all these experts and pundits will tell you, or these guys are the second coming, they're great. Are they? We'll find out in 5 to 7 years if they're, how many of them are still with the same team. It'll be interesting to see. Now, New York Jets. Are they going to make the move for Rodgers? Is this all smoke? Are they going to do it on draft night just to make it dramatic and fun for everyone? Where could they possibly go? Well, if they go with the Rodgers deal, they're absolutely taking Peter Skoronski or any of the tackles that are there, I think. But Skoronski first. That's just a guy that they absolutely... that's a guy that they would definitely... You draft just be someone to protect Rodgers, to protect your new asset. Your 39-year-old brand new asset. So look, the slide is on for Carter. The slide is happening, and now you got New England Patriots. Great coach. Belichick's a great coach, not a great drafter to be honest. we're going to have him take Lucas Van Ness, the edge rusher from Iowa. You know, they can go quite a few different directions. They generally, they're better drafting defensively than they are offensive. So, Lucas Van Ness is the pick. Green Bay Packers. Now, it would be funny. They don't really have, you know what? I'm petty this way. The Green Bay Packers are going to trade Aaron Rodgers, and then what are they going to do? They're going to draft their first round receiver, first one since 2002. I think it was the last time they did it. But they're going to draft Zay Flowers. A little bit of a reach. Depending on who you ask, Zay Flowers is the top wide receiver in this draft. So, you know, why not have them take him here? So, you got Washington. You got a lot of choices. A lot of choices on the clock. You got Witherspoon. You got Porter. There's a lot of names on this board. Who are they going to possibly take? I do think they will take Devin Witherspoon here. They're not expecting him to fall that far. They're shocked that he fell this far. And that's the pick. Like, they're thrilled with taking a corner. I see a lot of mocks with them taking Joey Porter Jr. right before the Steelers, which would be, you know, understandably. So, my Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock, and it's an interesting board out there. There's a lot of names, a lot of ways they can go here. Jalen Carter, perhaps. You know, Tomlin shielded Antonio Brown's character issues from the world. So do you take Carter here? Joey Porter Jr. is a legacy. He's a legacy. You have to take him. Broderick Jones, the tackle. Thought maybe you'd trade up to 9 for Chicago. You did not, and he's still here. You got Nolan Smith, edge rusher. Brian Branch, a safety. You got Jordan Addison. Is Kenny Pickett in the ear for Addison? You got Kalijah Cansey from Pitt. You know, they saw a lot of Pitt football. You know, that could be a position they would take. Darnell Wright, Deonte Banks. A lot of these players have been mocked to the Steelers. Brian Brees. Where do you go here? As I mentioned, it's what I would want to have happen in pure chaos times. And we're having fun. Steelers stop the slide on Jalen Carter. I don't think that was their choice going in. I think they would have taken Porter. I really do think they would have taken Joey Porter had that pick been on the board. Had Carter not been there, they probably would have taken Porter or Jones. One of those two. So, do I think Carter's going to fall away to 17 and the Steelers take him? Even if he's on the board, do I think the Steelers are going to take him at 17? No. But I just like the chaos of it. And that may be a pick they live to regret. Either he's, they coach it out of him and he becomes just this dominant dude for the next decade, or he's a dude that's going to flame out of the league fast because of character issues. You never know. 18, Detroit. And, they have some names on here, and they have some names on the board. They already took Christian Gonzalez, so they're not going to take a corner. They could go a lot of different ways. They could go receiver. They could go tight end. They traded Hawkinson away. We'll have them take Nolan Smith, the edge rusher from Georgia. When you have you're kind of rebuilding the defense. They added Hutchinson, now adding Smith there along with Christian Gonzalez, and they're building a nice defensive lineup in Detroit. Detroit, they kind of bought into Dan Campbell's system. That may be some of the team that's going to be scary at this point. So watch out for Detroit in the next few years. I mean, not saying they're going to do exactly what I did, but I'm just saying like if they're buying in, watch out for that team. Okay, Tampa Bay 19. Baker Mayfield at the helm. Where do you go? There's a lot of places I guess they could go. Not really any married to one position or another. I'm probably shocked that somebody like Porter and Jones are still on the board. But I am going to give them, for fun, Michael Mayer, the tight end. Is that their top need? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It is not their top need. But they take it anyway because they're Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield might need the services of a top tight end. Who knows? I'm just going flying blind here. Seattle at 20. They already have C.J. Stroud. That's somebody that they're going to be able to build around. You would think that they would go maybe perhaps receiver to assist with that, but that was never, they got Metcalf. That was never Seattle's way, so they're going to take Broderick Jones. So to protect your young quarterback, have a young now left tackle to cover for him, hopefully for the next decade for them both. Los Angeles Chargers, man, how many different ways could they go? They could go a lot of different ways here. There's not anybody like super excite on the board where they can be like, like this guy or this guy. But I'm going to give them a wild card. You want a wild card? Jahmyr Gibbs. That's right, the running back from Alabama. Why? Because they're already having trade talks with Eckler. Now, Eckler hasn't moved yet. There seemed to be some debate on the contract, on the terms, on all that stuff. And they could move. They could certainly move on from him. Now, they'd probably wait until the second to get Gibbs. But we'll give him Gibbs here just because I couldn't figure out who. There's a few people that they probably could have taken. They were better. But keep in mind, Seattle took Rashad Penny in the first, and they had him graded way lower. Occasionally, teams will do their deep dive own investigations and find a guy that they like, and they just take that guy, regardless of what the experts think. Now, it's going to upset some people. But here we are. Here's Baltimore yet again. And Baltimore, as much as I hate them, they do draft very well. And sure enough, there's a Joey Porter on the board here. And Baltimore takes him. What a sin, what a crime. Steelers fans, they'd be upset. They would be upset. But Joey Porter will be the guy facing the Steelers 2 times a year for the next few years. So regardless of what you might not like that or not, it could be something where they can't just sit there and wait for this guy to, this guy's on the board. It should have been taken 5 to 10 picks earlier. They're going to take him. So, Minnesota. What does Minnesota do? What do they need? I'm going to have them take Darnell Wright, the tackle. Minnesota's line, they always seem to have like O-line struggles. They've not hurt to add another O-lineman. Jacksonville at 24. I've seen this link several times. We're going to make it here. You got Brian Branch sitting there. Brian Branch is the pick for Jacksonville. They do need some safety help. I think it is something where they could certainly add him if he's still there at 24. New York Giants, 25. Always looking kind of for a... They could be looking for a receiver. They did sign a bunch of random dudes. Who could they draft here? There's quite a few names. There's quite a few places that they could go for fun and excitement. I'm going to have them take... They're going to take Brian Brees. It's one of those things where it's like they want to kind of help their offense out a little bit. But a Brian Brees... is somebody that, is one of those guys that really could be dominant on the line. And, you see him in the late 20s and you're like, okay, well, all right, we're gonna have to pull the trigger on that, I think. I don't think they can, it'd be shocked. I've seen a few scenarios where he slid into the second. I'd be shocked if he slid into the second. So you got Dallas. It's pick 26. You got Dallas and Kalijah Cansey sitting there, and I think they'd pull the trigger on that. Obviously the Dallas offense has a lot of firepower. Like their defense, if you add a Cansey there, could he be somebody that comes in and makes an impact day one? Who's to say? Buffalo Bills. Where do they go? What do they do? They're going to take Deonte Banks, the cornerback from Maryland. This guy should probably go a little bit higher than he is. He is a top-end corner. He is one of those guys that, is one of those kind of always around the ball guys. And, Buffalo, they wouldn't mind that. They lost some names. They got that big Josh Allen contract to deal with. So their defense, their offense and their quarterback situation can keep them in games sometimes, but their defense can also keep them out of games. So I don't think adding a cornerback will not hurt. Pick 28, Cincinnati Bengals. What do? There's a Dalton Kincaid sitting there, a tight end. They do need a tight end. They did lose Hayden Hurst. I'm not sure who TE1 is on the team currently. Maybe they added someone. I can't remember offhand if they did. But they might have added someone. But Kincaid, a first-round tight end, can he make an impact immediately with Joe Burrow? Sure. Pick 29, New Orleans. Where do you go? What do you do? Well, they're taking Anton Harrison, the tackle, because, they committed to Carr. They committed to Carr, and now they, going to need some O-linemen to block for him, to help him out. Philadelphia, 30. I forget Philadelphia has these other picks here. I'm going to give them Emmanuel Forbes, the corner. The reason being is because with Philadelphia, they have a couple starting corners. They went all the way to the Super Bowl last year, but both the starting corners are over 30. And, you have to start looking at the next group there. Kansas City at 31. There's a few different ways they can go. They could take Addison if Addison was still sitting there. They need some receiving help. For the purposes of this draft, I'm not going to have them take it. I am going to have them take... who are they going to take? They're going to take Keely Ringo, the corner. You can't have enough corner help. And, the team won the Super Bowl last year of holes to fill. So that's it for the first round. Like I said, kind of like some, as the board fell, a few surprises in there. I didn't make any trades or anything like that. But pick 32, Steelers. And here's the scenario. They're at pick 32, Jordan Addison sitting there. And you wonder if they do it. Do they do it? Should they do it? Maybe that's the question. Should they do it at pick 32? If this is how it's laid out, if for some reason Addison were to fall to 32, and these are the names or close to it that are on the board at 32, do you take Addison here? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, as Steelers. And let me know your thoughts on this draft. Do you think there's an outside chance that Anthony Richardson goes 1? Do you think that Jalen Carter could fall outside the top 10? Do you think the Texans will not take a quarterback with 2? There are burning questions that are being considered here. Do you think that Bijan Robinson goes in the top 10? Do you think that Addison slides into the second round of 32? Or do you think the Steelers will trade up using 17 and 32? Apparently that's the cost to move up to 9 to take the Bears pick. And if they're moving up to 9, who are they going to take at 9? A lot of questions heading in this draft. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like support me on Patreon like John Bailey did. You can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tomwashere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, and the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. But when it comes to the next mock draft or the next video, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.